Hello, everyone. Welcome to Around the World Oncology, Hematology, and Cancer Focused Cell and Gene Therapy in India. So, this webinar will explore India's fast growing advancement in cancer therapy, especially CAR T cell therapy, including some of the homegrown inventions. And this program also highlights the increased accessibility and some of the major clinical successes and some renewed programs which have recently taken place and which showcases India's growing impact in the field of hematology and specifically CAR T based cell therapy. So I would request everyone to save their questions till the end of both the talks, and these can be you know, recorded throughout the presentation. And you're also encouraged to submit your questions, and these will be then taken to the Q&A tab. And you can also continue to submit your questions throughout the presentation, and these will be covered towards the end of the talk. So, we have two amazing presenters today, and our first speaker is Dr. Dinesh Pendarkar. He is a distinguished medical oncologist with an extensive experience of over 35 years. And he's currently serving as the director of Sarvodaya Cancer Institute in Faridabad. He had earned his PhD from prestigious Academy of Medical Sciences in Moscow, and his knowledge ranges from hematological malignancies, breast cancer, management of hand and foot syndrome, general oncology, and leukemias, along with some of the major blood disorders. And he is currently holding the title of Fellow of American Society of Clinical Oncology. And we would now go to Dr. Dinesh and we would hear him speak. So over to you, Dr. Dinesh. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. We are living through very exciting times in science today. We have been able to manipulate the genes and control their function. This has come very handy for all of us as we can control the diseases and help the humankind. Cell and gene therapy has really evolved to such a high level of science that we can actually manipulate the gene we desire through this. I think these are exciting times. We are advancing very fast, really so fast that many countries, many nations are not even able to cope with the disease. Globally, There are 68 non genetically modified cell therapies which have been approved. There are about 32 gene therapies which have been approved. There are 1,221 clinical trials on, out of which 342 are in phase 1B and 525 in phase 2 and 2B. These numbers are extremely important for us because whenever we do a clinical trial, the most important thing for us is we would like to finish them fast so that the trials see the light of the physician's power and they reach the patients. Speed of clinical trials is extremely important. And if, like phase 1, 1B trial, if I could finish in 6 months, the product can be up in the market literally after 1.5 years. So if I really want to deliver a product truly to the patient, I have to control the speed of clinical trials. There is an immense need to work in the field of cell and gene therapy. Let's see India with 1.5 billion population. There are 70 million patients with rare diseases. It's such a huge number that if we really try to treat only few of them, we will not be able to even tackle that small numbers. Just take this case of sickle cell disease, more than 200,000 patients in India. Thalassemia, 70,000 patients in India. And for this, fortunately, we already have some therapies approved. Neuromuscular disorders, extremely common in India. We talk of cancer, there are literally 1.5 million new cancer cases per year in India. If compare this group with an American data, American population is close to 5 times smaller. The rare disease number is at least 2 times smaller. The number of sickle and thal is also smaller. And number of cancer cases are definitely higher in US than in India. Why I'm showing you this data is USA is the major science developer in the world. The cell and gene therapy research is majorly originating in America. If we want to put that into practice, we might have to look into the group of patients where it is more readily accessible or where it can be tried more easily. That's why this area is very, very important for research in cell and gene therapy. Let's talk of one more disease called diabetes. India is a diabetic capital of the world. There is a lot of research going on manipulating pancreas, on developing stem cells through gene therapy, which can duplicate the role of pancreas. So, India again has a vast potential. India is an endogamous society. That means the number of genetic diseases which prevail are likely to prevail again for a very long time. So, the need of cell and gene therapy for India is great, probably much bigger than other parts of the world. Fortunately, India has been able to develop a good regulatory framework for research and for treatment of cell and gene therapy. There is National Biotechnology Development Strategy in place. There is a technology vision for 2035, which actually specifically focuses on cell and gene therapy. There are agencies already constituted like Biotechnology Research Assistant Council. There is Department of Biotechnology, Indian Council of Medical Research, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, who specifically have units to look after exclusively cell and gene therapy. There is an Indian FDA parallel to US FDA called CDSCO, or Drug Controller General of India, which have a separate unit called Cell and Gene Branch. Why so? Because the cell and gene therapy related products can be moved fast so that the process can be done very fast. And there is a decision to move application to cell and gene therapy unit. The application needs to be addressed within 15 days. 11 CAR T reviews have already been completed till April 25. So there is a good regulatory framework. The state and the scientific community understands the necessity of cell and gene therapy in India. So it's a good regulatory framework which is willing to assess the progress of cell and gene therapy. There are national guidelines available for stem cell research. Stem cells have been categorized under the new rule as a new drug. So they have to follow all the regulations, whatever are applicable for any new drug entity. The process is controlled by CDSCO through that is a Central Drug Standard Control Organization parallel to US FDA. So that organization ultimately gives approval of a clinical trial, and that organization initially starts the process of research, documentation, and ultimately the approval of stem cell product. So regulatory framework in India is completely presently well designed, well structured, and well settled, with multiple agencies looking after this process. There is a national monitoring committee, a national apex committee for stem cell research and therapy, and there is a cell biology based therapeutics drug evaluation committee. So the process is so well settled that whenever you decide to design a cell or gene therapy, or whenever you want to make use of it for a larger group, it's readily available. The financial framework of this country is very unique today. India has presently evolved as a third largest economy. So investments are available. The pharma companies have recognized the potential of cell and gene therapy. There is an insurance framework, but one has to understand that in India, people are used to spend from their pocket, and out of pocket payment is largest mode of payment in India. It's not insurance driven like in the Western countries. Fortunately, two largest players uh, in not exactly insurance sector, but who control a large portion of employed people have already started payment for CAR T cell therapy. So there is already a system being set how cell therapy will be approved and the payments will be processed. This example will be followed by other agencies. So I am very hopeful that in near future, at least a large chunk of Indian patients will be able to access cell and gene therapy. So much so, I can tell you that even today, even the drugs which are not approved in India, the CAR T products which are not approved even in the West, are being imported from various locations in the world. They are being brought to India. The leucophorase product is sent outside, and the finished product is bought out back. Government of India regulation allows this with a conditional approval individually for every patient. But it is happening in this country, happening regularly. So I want to say that there is a good amount of physicians who are aware of the products, good amount of patients who are well versed what is happening in this world. So definitely, cell therapy and gene therapy are two different ball games. Dr. Vikram Matthews will be speaking in detail about cell therapy. And as far as gene therapy, I can tell you that there are multiple labs already doing research. There is high level of technology skill available for gene-based therapy. Only challenge today is translation of this research from the lab to the clinician to the clinical practice or to the pharma or to the practice. So the translation research is happening a bit slow and we need to really make it faster. A focus mainly had been in gene therapy on hematology side with hemoglobinopathies and hemophilia. Gene therapy is being worked out, tried, or researched in many laboratories. Like CMC Vellore has finished a trial of hemophilia gene therapy product. The research is going on in multiple institutions like Institute of Genomics, IIT Kanpur, IIT Mumbai, ACTREC, CSIR institutions, and many other institutions. Gene therapy is being tried in the lab. Various processes are being structured and strengthened. So there is enough research based infrastructure already available working on gene therapy. CRISPR based therapies also being investigated and researched in multiple institutions. They are all at a preclinical stage, like IIT Kanpur, IGIB, or CMC Vellore. Plus, there are other multiple private labs also working on CRISPR based therapies. So, as far as technology is concerned, or a technical skill professionals are concerned, both are today available in the country, and a large amount of investment is happening in this field. Many labs which are working with AAV, with viruses. There are special labs who are doing working with the viruses. There is a concerted effort to create vector manufacturing labs. Few trials with vectors have already been completed, as I said, in CMC Vellore, in a Narayana Hospital, Bangalore, with a focus on especially ocular disease and DMD. Uh, Other institutions are trying card-based products. Uh, Again, these are large preclinical laboratories. AAV-based research trials are on in DMD, ocular disease, and as I said, hemophilia. A trial has been just completed. A trial in the field of ocular disease, a phase one trial has been finished for retinal disease, and I think that's one of the first products which will see the light. There are multiple companies working, Indian companies working in the field of cell and gene therapy. I have just named a few. So the system is available, the investment is available, and the interest of the pharma industry and the research community both is existing in the country. And with this much of investment in these many players coming in, I think cell and gene therapy is a great future in India and in Asia. Fortunately, there is a very big interest in point of care manufacturing. What I mean by this is a lot of hospitals have started taking interest in creating their own cell therapy labs. In Delhi alone, there are 7 hospitals who have already started or applied for the permission to create a cell therapy lab. These are not pharma companies. These are not pharma companies. These are hospitals with no attachment to pharma industry. So it's a hospital-based uh, facility which hospital is interested in creating so that they can have their own cars. The dilemma is between a fully closed system and a half-open system because closed systems increase the cost of production. Open systems reduce the cost of production. So the setup is divided between these two things. Many universities have labs working on this. There is unfortunately not till date a good collaboration between physicians and the universities. So the future scope for the country is India has a big pharma base. India serves as a pharmacy of the world. There is enough awareness in pharma industry and in public. The government is proactively supporting, regulatories are very well informed, human resources are available, large infrastructure is under development. It's possible to do low cost production in the country, and we can reduce the cost of trials by multiple fold if the trials are conducted in India. Might have to change slightly some laws to foster the growth. Probably third party manufacturing should be allowed in the country, which presently is not allowed. Lentivirus manufacturing facility needs to be integrated with the pharma, to be integrated with the research lab. There should be a good registry of the trials, researchers, and in the industry that would really help growing the science much faster. Fortunately, India follows all US FDA rules, and these two agencies, India and US FDA, really can work together to make things even faster. The same CROs which work in America have bases in India also. So transforming a trial from America to India would be very easy. The trials can be moved from US to India. The process would become very cost effective and process will become very fast. So the CL and gene therapy products which are being actually tried world over, if they come to India for clinical trials, they can be introduced by pharma industry for general public much faster. I'm just showing you a very important slide. We have just finished a phase 1 trial of a third generation CAR T cell. If you see these two dates, the first patient was recruited on 25th November, and the last 10th patient was infused. This is the date of infusion of CAR T cell on 15th of February, 2.5 months. So, in 2.5 months, 10 patients required for a third generation CAR T were finished. Very fast speed of a trial. So, I personally feel that India is growing very fast in the space of cell and gene therapy. And I feel by moving eastward, if the trials and the research is moves eastwards towards India, cell and gene therapy science will expand more rapidly and would benefit patients world over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dinesh, for that extremely informative talk. We'll move on to the second speaker. Our second speaker is Dr. Vikram Matthews, and he has over 2 decades of experience. He's a clinician scientist from CMC Vellore, and he's finished his specialty clinical training in clinical hematology under the guidance of Dr. Mamin Chandy. He's also spent 3 years in Washington University, USA, as a postdoctoral fellow in the laboratory of Dr. Timothy and Dr. John DiPersio. And his current interest is in evaluation of mechanisms of resistance in leukemia. And additionally, he is also focusing on the role of microenvironment, which plays an important role in the drug resistance. So, over to you, Dr. Victor Matthews.
Morning, everybody. I want to thank the organizers for this opportunity to present. My topic is the current status of CAR T cell therapy in India, and I'll try to be brief in the next 15-20 minutes, give you a sense of an overview of where we are with CAR T cells in India. Just before we get into CAR T cells, just to give you a sense of comparison of the data from the United States and India with regards to transplant centers, it gives you a flavor and a sense of the kind of volumes of allogeneic stem cell transplants, which are very closely related to cell and gene therapy to some extent. So there are about 120 centers in India and the US. In comparison, there are 200 centers. And we do about 4,000 stem cell transplants a year in India. And in the US, they do about 20,000. And remember, that's with India having about 4 to 5 times the population of the United States. So that gives you the sense of the need and the demand that is there for growth in India, both in regards to allogeneic stem cell transplantation and with regards to cell and gene therapy, especially CAR T cells. There are a number of CAR T cells, as all of you are aware, that are already available. The common theme is mostly produced in industry and centralized manufacturing processes, and they're extremely expensive, anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million, which clearly is not affordable to the vast majority of patients in low and middle income countries, especially like in India. So the work, at least that I'm involved and many people in India are focused on, is how do we have equality and equity with regards to access to these highly curative, often one-time therapies that could potentially be curative in patients who have relatively or practically no other options of therapy. So we're looking at strategies to improve access and equity within our healthcare system. So obviously, some of the things that we need is an increase in research capacity, local manufacture of reagents, local manufacture of vectors, rather than industrialized, centralized manufacturing or decentralized manufacturing platforms and public and government partnerships. And many of these things actually in India are currently in place. One of the major lacunae is the lack of manufacturing of local reagents. We have to import all the reagents when you have to manufacture CAR T cells as well. And that adds significantly to the cost of manufacturing CAR T cells. First off the block in India was this work by Dr. Rahul Purwar, uh, developed an indigenous humanized anti-CD19 CAR T cell. Really remarkable work, and he's not just done the academic work; he's translated that by moving this work into a company that he started called ImmunoAct, and they really have done substantial work, completing phase one and phase two clinical trials and taking it to the market as well. This was their phase one and phase two trial that was recently published in Lancet Hematology, showing a 73% response rate. Subsequently, it has been available in the market in India, and recently the data that they very generously shared with me says that they have AFRS 315 patients and infused cell products in almost 280 patients. Even from the published data and the continuing data with personal communications, the product is extremely well tolerated, very low incidence of grade 3, 4 CRS or ICANS, with a good response rate. And in the real world data, the long term survivals are just one sec. Yeah. The long-term survivals are showed over here. The follow-ups are short, but as you can see, they are promising both leukemia progression-free survival and leukemia overall survival, at least with these short time points in the real world, are quite good. The lymphoma PFS and lymphoma overall survival in their cohort is also shown in these slides. Again, short follow-ups, longer follow-up is required to see where they finally fall. The other next company that has followed, in a sense, the work that has been done by ImmunoAct is a company called Immunil. They have an in-licensed product from the Barcelona group, and in contrast to the ImmunoAct, they use a Prodigy system for the manufacture of their cells. In regards to timelines, you can see the Nexcar was approved in mid 2023, and their product called Quatiami was approved in early 2024. In their early trials, which includes patients from Spain, their phase one studies showed a good response rate both in B-ALL and in NHL. Their subsequent phase two study, done entirely on 12 patients in India, showed an overall response rate of 83.3%, and by day 28, it was 91.7%. The median progression-free survival and overall survival have not been reached. Here again, both the grade 3, there was a very low incidence of significant cytokine release syndrome or neurotoxicity or hematotoxicity. So well-tolerated product. And the follow-up is short, but at about 12 months, you can see that more than 50% of patients have a durable response with the product that they've labeled and called as varnicaptogen or Telucel. Moving from here to another company called Origin Oncology, who has invested quite heavily in this space. And they have, at this point in time, a number of products that are lined up to be produced, both in the myeloma, CD19, and also looking at trispecific CAR T cells and allogenic CAR T cells. Of these, the BCMA CAR T trial has already started. They've completed their phase one clinical trial. This again is an in-licensed product from China. This is a nanobody BCMA CAR. And this, in the first 8 patients, has showed very good response. 7 of the 8 patients have showed response. The follow-ups are too short, but the preliminary data is exciting in a group of very heavily pretreated patients. there was a fairly good response rate and it was fairly well tolerated without any significant high grade CRS or ICANS. They've started their phase 2 enrollment and they've just completed it and they've submitted the data. And we hope in the next 2 to 3 months we will have a commercially available BCMA CAR, just like we have a commercially available CD19 with Immunoact and Immunil. Moving forward, my group at Christian Medical College Vellore, we have been focusing on decentralized manufacturing of CAR T cells at a point of care using a Clinimax Prodigy system. We use this vector that we have got from Miltenyi Biotech, very generously given by them. It's a second generation CAR T that is directed at CD19. And there are multiple publications using this vector both in North America and in Europe. Our GMP facility is within the hospital setting itself, and you can see the Clinimax Prodigy system over there. The manufacturing process itself is fairly standard. Once you load the machine, all the CD4, CD8 selection, the transactivation, the transduction happens within the first day, and then the cells are allowed to expand. For the clinical trial, we stopped at 9 days of expansion and characterized the cells. The basic flow of the study design was that after we screen the patients, we start after the apheresis. Once we start day -9, we screen the product for if it's proliferating and there's no major issues before we start the fludarabine cyclophosphamide preparative regimen. Day -2, we do a release criteria. Based on this release criteria, we actually release the product, and on day 0, on the day of infusion, we repeat the release criteria. So it's a fresh out, fresh in product with a vein to vein time of just 9 days. The option of cryopreservation is available, but in the phase 1 clinical trial that we did, we've not had to do this for any patient. This again is this data has been published. It was a phase 1 3+3 kind of study design with an increasing cell dose from 0.5 going up to 2 million per kilogram. And as I said, the cell product infusion, we had adequate manufacturing of cells. We did not have a single failure. And there was adequate transduction with a median transduction of almost 42%. And as you can see from this, from patient to patient at the start and at the end, the graph show the CD4 and the CD8, and the grayish areas reflect the number of central memory cells that were seen. Just to concentrate on the CD8, at the start, for example, we had a very small proportion of cells that were CD8 central memory cells. At the end of the expansion before infusion, you can see the substantial average expansion in all the patients of the CD8 central memory cells, and the same phenomena you can see with the CD4 cells. Post-infusion in these patients, we had an overall response of 90%, which was 100% in the ALL patient. All of them became MRD negative, 50% response rate in the lymphoma patients. On follow-up, you can see 8 of the 10 patients continue to be in remission and alive. One patient in the lowest dose cohort died very early of progressive disease, a lymphoma patient, and a second lymphoma patient had progressive disease, continues to be alive, but on palliative care. Again, in this series of 10 patients with point-of-care manufacturing with fresh products, we had almost no CRS with the exception of one patient who had a grade 3 CRS, cytokine release syndrome. None of our patients had ICANS, though some of our patients had prolonged cytopenia. One patient had grade 3 cytopenia that went on for almost 2 months, but all of them recovered spontaneously without any additional intervention. This is one of our lymphoma patients who responded very well. Just to illustrate, in a heavily pretreated patient, including having a prior autologous transplant treated with CAR T cells, the images on the top reflect the images before the CAR T cells were infused, and the adjacent and the images below here are images that were taken 28 days after the infusion, showing a complete clearance of the disease. So quite remarkable when the CAR T cells work very well, and in these lymphoma patients, he continues to be in remission almost 18 months after treatment. Miltenyi Biotech plans to take this forward as a multi-center study with point-of-care manufacture, and the results are at the early phase trials quite exciting, and we hope this will improve access. And we've also done a detailed costing in our publication, which is available online. The other product that we are working with a company called Cellogen is to move a third generation indigenously developed CAR T cell directed at CD1920 into a phase 1 clinical trial. This is currently with the regulators, and here again we hope to use a point of care manufacturing process and to take this to a clinical trial. So, in conclusion, I think in India in general, there's been a sudden and significant rapid progress in the cell and gene therapy space. I've only talked about CAR T cells. There's also a number of products that people are working on with regards to gene therapy for eye diseases and for hemoglobinopathies, which we hope will go into clinical trials soon in India, many of them indigenously developed. There's an urgent need for made in India reagents to drive down the cost of manufacturing of these products. We obviously need to do our own research at both the basic and translational level, and this is critical in improving access, equity, and access for our patients who need these therapies. CAR T cell therapy is already here, gene therapy is just around the corner. We need greater collaboration between academia, industry, and organizations. Uh, with also funding and the regulatory landscape issues are evolving, but we hope that these will all steadily improve to make more products available in India.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram. We'll go over to the Q&A now. So we have a question from Dr. Terence Float, and this is for Dr. Dinesh. And he has asked, is the point of care hospital based CAR T manufacturing using standardized equipment or protocols?
Yes. So the hospitals which are trying to create their own labs would be using standardized equipment and standardized processes. The hospitals are trying to evolve, and it's still very not clear what they would do at the end. But this interest of creating in hospital premises the facilities is very encouraging, because even if the process as of now, if we feel there is some deficit, it can be very easily corrected. So having a facility and having a mindset of doing a cell research, I think that's a great contribution.
Right. Um, so, um, so I have two questions. So, do we have an existing database, or is there a database creation in the process for the patients in India, a sort of registry?
Vikram,
So,
please.
yeah, I can tell you that we don't have right now. It's not being captured in a registry. Each of the groups are capturing their own. But we hope we're trying to work together. But there are so many people working in the space now, and every day it's expanding. But I think it's something that we really should do.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Vikram. So we have another question for Dr. Dinesh. Dr. Terence has asked, does India's regulatory structure allow for import of investigational AAV vectors which are manufactured in US?
Yes, it's allowed. So importing of AAV vectors is allowed. Presently, the labs which are working, they are importing the AAV vectors.
Okay. Okay. And we have another question also for Dr. Dinesh. So you have mentioned two large payers which have started the reimbursement for CAR-T. So can you please inform the audience about those two?
So what happens particularly in India, generally it's an out of pocket payment for the treatments. But then there are two big agencies who pay for the people whom they cover. So it's a quasi insurance, but that is the biggest payer in India and the biggest group of people covered in India. So they have started formally uh, allowing hospitals to do these treatments where the patient comes directly from these agencies. Few patients have already been approved. So the landscape is very clear. Once these agencies start doing this, other insurance companies may follow this.
Okay. Will it be possible to give their names for general audience? Or
So these are central government agencies which cover their employees who are presently working and employees who are retired. This is one of the largest groups in India.
okay, right. We have another question from the audience, and so what are the main funding sources for both preclinical and clinical research in India? So, Dr. Vikram, if you would like to answer
Yeah,
this.
so for the phase one study that I did, we did have the vector that we got free of cost from Miltenyi Biotech. The rest of it was partly institution funded, and we also were fortunate to get a grant from ICMR to do the phase one clinical trial. A lot of the preclinical work validation was done in house by the institution.
Right.
But there
Thank
are
you, Dr.
increasing funding agencies, DBT, DST, all of them, and there are also the concept of a BIRAC, public-private partnership things that they fund. So there is an increasing avenue for funding for both for preclinical work and for clinical trials.
Right. Thank you. So there is another question. So I saw in the presentation that the current CAR T cells are targeted against CD19. Do we also have a mutational profile for our patients so that, like, when we have a design for CAR Ts, whether it has to be a CD19 or it can be a hybrid molecule? So
Dinesh, you want to take that?
No, please, you go ahead.
So the conventional thing was to do CD19, and so there are obviously multiple trials that are directed at CD19. The evolvement in this field is when you do have CD19, a proportion of patients can develop a CD19 negative clone that can bypass the CAR T cells. And so for that, people have developed bispecific and trispecific CAR T cells. There are some challenges with them. The work that we are doing with the third generation CAR T cell is a bispecific CAR directed at CD19 and CD20. Hopefully that will address some of the relapses, but still does not mean that every patient who gets CAR T cells is cured. There are uh, mutation without CD19 or 20 escaping. There are relapses that can still happen, and that could be due to multiple factors, including the senescence of the CAR T cells that we infuse and the failure to persist over a long period of time. So it's not all necessarily mutation driven.
right. Okay. Thank you. We have another question from one of the audience, and it is CAR-T immunogenicity is one of the factors because of which it is a one-time therapy, and then so how do we look at the financial aspect of the toxicity of precision medicine? And this is because India has always been respected for its affordable therapeutics. So, Dr. Dinesh or Dr. Vikram, if you would like to comment on this.
So, as far as trials are concerned today, all trials have included this aspect into their planning. So, the patients who are under trial in phase one, they would be followed for a period of 5 years. And so the follow-up and investigation is already included. Yes, I agree that the people who will go and come when it goes into a commercial practice, how are we likely to follow the indigenicity? Are we likely to review these patients in future? But as far as the government regulations, even if the patient who are getting these drugs, even from the pharmacy or for financially, they still need to be followed. So I'm sure with time and the data coming in, we will be able to analyze the antigenicity of these products as well.
Right. Right. So, which will help in uh, uh, making the therapy more affordable for a wider population.
It will make it more, not only more affordable, but maybe depending on the long-term toxicity, I would say.
Okay. Right. There is another question. Uh, like we have Nexcar 19 as one of the approved products. So, Dr. Vikram, would you like to throw some light on when will the well card be available for a wider population?
That really will, Miltony Biotech is going to take this phase two trial forward and then has to get market approval. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the optimistic hope is that within the next 1 year we should be able to complete the trial, provided we can work with the regulators and get all the required clearances, etc. Getting the patients, as Dr. Dinesh correctly pointed out, is not the challenge. We need to get
Mm-hmm.
the required clearances and subsequent market approval. So it will depend both on Miltenyi Biotech and working closely with the regulators. But there are multiple centers, as Dr. Dinesh has already pointed out, who are willing to be part of these point of care decentralized manufacturing trials.
Right. And there's another question. Is there any organization where the private, public, or uh, the company-based products which can be brought to the market, and are they collaborating with the institutes, research institutes specifically? Is there any middle point where they can basically take part in the collaboration efforts? Because right now all the funding agencies would usually want to promote research institutes because um, they have long-term experience with these kind of therapies as compared to the industries, which might be a little dampening factor. So is there something, or is there an organization where they can meet halfway? So, Dr. Dinesh, if you would like to comment on this.
So I am not aware of such an organization, and I'm not aware of such a collaboration. But yes, majority of the labs who have some research going to some point, some end, they are already negotiating with pharma companies to take the product forward. I'm aware of two central organizations who have developed the product, and they are already negotiating with pharma company to take the product forward. Because yes, research organizations can take the product to a certain level only, and then you need an industry involvement, especially for doing phase one, phase two, and taking to the market. So the it's happening on one, but it's happening, but not as an organized system or an organized platform.
Right. Um, yes,
Yes,
Dr.
So,
Vikram,
Vikram.
please.
yeah, so, actually, Dr. Nish, there is the BIRAC organization, and
Yeah.
BIAP it's now called Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council. And actually, it's an interesting platform where they basically support industry, but they encourage industry academia collaborations, and they basically fund quite generously with industry with interest-free kind of loans to help people establish and take products that have been developed in academia into industry and market and into the market. So I think that opportunity is there in India, and I think that's a lot of foresight in the funding agency to actually come up with something like that. They're fairly large grants. Many of them, even ImmunoAct, if I remember right, I hope I'm not, and Immunil benefited from grants like this to actually help them translate their work into the clinic and then subsequently to the market.
Right.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah. I have another question, and I would like both of you to bring your viewpoint on this. So, aside from the financial challenges which make the therapy more costly, what are the aspects you see as one of the reasons the CAR T cell therapy may take more longer time in India? So, Dr. Vikram and Dr. Dinesh, if you would like to bring your
Yes, Vikram,
viewpoint.
please go ahead.
Yeah. So I encourage people on the audience or whoever to look at our publication for not it's just a phase one trial, but we've done a detailed costing. As Dr. Dinesh pointed out, phase one trials are covered, but we made an effort to actually cost it if it were actually to be paid for. And what we demonstrated is that we can do this even with a ready-made platform like Clinimax Prodigy for about 1/10 the price of what it is available in the Western world. But that figure is still way above what the vast majority of our patients can afford. So the hope is that with increasing scale, that many of these costs will gradually be driven down further. You know, Right now it's difficult for any industry to such a niche market, so to bring in. But as larger amounts of reagents are used and equipments and things are used, we hope that the cost will come down. But of course, if you go uh, with an open manufacturing platforms and systems, the costs are less. But then you'll need to have an industrial kind of level of manufacturing process, and therefore I'm very optimistic that the costs will continue to come down in India, and it will reach the point where it will be as expensive as an allogeneic stem cell transplant, if not less, which is now, is what most of the patients often receive, at least in the ALL space, with actually very poor results in general in early relapsed acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Right. Uh, Dr. Dinesh, would you like to
Yeah,
say?
so definitely these challenges are there, but they are being answered. There is a lot of human resource available technical, which is really developing the products. And if the cost of reagents also comes down, I'm sure these institutions which have the human talent, they will be able to even develop processes which will be really cheaper. For example, if we do an open system, and if we have to do just say T cell separation, there is an effort going on to create systems which can separate the T cells at a much lower cost using some other beads. You're using beads which are not standardized beads as of today. But once the research happens, they can be standardized. So every process of a stem cell manufacturing or a car manufacturing actually can be downgraded financially with the research happening. So as Dr. Vikram has said, we really have a very bright future, and we are really hopeful that the cost would definitely come down.
Thank you. We have another question. So it goes like, as an undergraduate student interested in gene therapy and immunology, what skills or research areas should I start focusing on to contribute to this field in the future?
Vikram.
Yeah, so see, you can take it from two approaches. You can be a pure basic scientist addressing the immunological challenges, and there's a lot of them. A lot of it we don't fully understand. It works in certain cases. We don't understand why it works very well in some cases and why it doesn't work so well in other cases. So there's a lot of basic science work that needs to be done. On the other end of the spectrum, you could be a translational scientist or a clinician, because there is a lot of knowledge and skill sets required in how you handle these patients. It's not just about infusing and walking away. There's a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding and research that goes into how this can optimally be used. And I think the best space to be is a physician scientist, where you bridge both sides, and you can be involved in both. It can be a very enriching experience. But it, besides just CAR T cells, the entire area of cell and gene therapy, it's vast, and there are so many areas that you can choose to focus on. So I think it's a good time for a graduate student to step into this field for a lifetime of excitement.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram. So, if if there are no further questions, we would close this webinar. So, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you both Dr. Vikram and Dr. Dinesh. This was a very exciting session, and we are so glad that you shared your expertise with us. And we would like to close this webinar now. However, you can still we request the audience to post their questions if there are any, and you will also get a link in the email where the recording of the event can be seen. And we would also like to invite everyone to join ASGCT in their upcoming molecular therapy webinar series, which will take place virtually on August 8th. Finally, we would like to close the session by saying thanks to you, and we value your feedback, and we also welcome your suggestions for our future sessions. And please take a moment to complete the survey, which will be given at the end of the slide. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Vikram. Thank you, Dr. Dinesh.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, the
Thank you. Thank
ASGCT
you.
organizers. Thank you.
Bye.